The distress signal came through at the worst possible time, but Marcus knew he had no choice when he saw who sent it. His best friend Jake had been deployed to the Outer Rim for 6 months, and the message was from Jake's sister Amy, who lived alone on the human colony station orbiting Zentara Prime. The water recycling system had failed, and she needed help before the station administrators found out. Because unauthorized repairs meant fines neither of them could afford, Marcus grabbed his toolkit and headed to the docking bay without telling anyone where he was going. The colony station was quiet when he arrived, and Amy met him at the airlock with worried eyes that reminded him so much of Jake that his chest tightened. She was smaller then, he remembered, with dark hair pulled back in a messy bun and grease stains on her maintenance uniform from trying to fix the problem herself. They hurried through the corridors to her quarters, and Marcus immediately saw the issue was worse than she had described. The entire heating element had burned out and water pooled across the floor, creating a safety hazard that could trigger automatic alerts. He set to work quickly pulling apart the damaged components while Amy handed him tools and explained how the malfunction started 3 days ago. The repair took longer than expected because the parts were old and the system design was inefficient like everything else. The colonial administration installed hours passed, and Marcus found himself actually enjoying the work because Amy was easy to talk to, and she made him laugh with stories about Jake's childhood that his friend had never mentioned. They were so focused on the repair that neither of them noticed the shadow passing by the window until a deep voice spoke from the doorway. Marcus looked up and froze because standing there was something he had only seen in training videos and propaganda broadcasts. She was Zentaran, and she was massive. The alien woman stood at least 7 feet tall with smooth purple skin that seemed to shimmer under the corridor lights. Her body was powerfully built with broad shoulders and defined muscles that spoke of incredible strength. 4 arms hung at her sides, 2 primary and 2 secondary, and her face was angular with high cheekbones and large golden eyes that watched him with unsettling intensity. A crest of darker purple ridges ran from her forehead back over her skull like a natural crown. She wore what appeared to be diplomatic robes in deep crimson with silver threading that marked her as someone important. Marcus knew enough about Zentaran culture to understand that only their ruling class wore those colors. Amy stepped forward with her hands raised in a peaceful gesture and spoke in halting Zentaran that Marcus barely understood. The alien woman replied in perfect English with a voice like thunder rolling across mountains. Her name was Vera, and she was the regional administrator for this sector, which meant she outranked everyone on the station, including the human colonial governor. She had been conducting surprise inspections and noticed the water usage anomaly in Amy's quarters. Marcus expected her to call security or issue citations, but instead Vera stepped inside and closed the door behind her. She crouched down near the water heater and examined his repair work with those enormous golden eyes studying every detail. Then she did something that shocked him completely. She reached out with one of her secondary arms and adjusted a connection point he had missed, making the entire system hum to life properly. Vera explained that she had worked as an engineer before entering politics, and she could see he was doing quality work despite the inadequate materials. She asked why they were making unauthorized repairs instead of filing proper requests. Amy explained about the fines and the processing delays and how human workers always got pushed to the bottom of the priority list. Vera's expression darkened, and she stood to her full imposing height, radiating barely contained anger. She said that was unacceptable and violated the treaties between their species. Marcus watched in amazement as this powerful alien woman pulled out a communication device and began issuing orders in rapid Zentaran. Within minutes, 3 maintenance crews arrived with proper equipment and replacement parts. Vera supervised everything personally, making sure the job was done correctly, while Amy and Marcus stood back in stunned silence. When the crews finished and left, Vera turned to them with an expression that might have been a smile, though it was hard to tell on her alien features. She said the repairs were completed under her direct authorization, and there would be no fines or reports. Then she looked at Marcus with those penetrating golden eyes and asked if he would stay to verify the system worked properly overnight. Amy quickly agreed and offered to make dinner as thanks for everyone's help. That was how Marcus found himself sitting in Amy's small quarters eating reheated ration packs with a Zentaran administrator, who kept asking him technical questions about human engineering methods. Vera was fascinating to talk to because she understood concepts that most humans struggled with, and she offered insights into Zentaran technology that were usually classified. The evening stretched on, and Amy eventually excused herself to sleep in the bedroom, leaving Marcus and Vera in the main living area. He should have left, but Vera asked him to explain more about Earth and his family, and why he had traveled so far from home. Marcus found himself opening up about things he never discussed with anyone except Jake. He talked about losing his parents young and working terrible jobs to pay for engineering school and feeling like he never quite belonged anywhere. Vera listened with complete attention, her forearms folded in a way that seemed to indicate deep contemplation. Then she began to share her own story. She came from a warrior lineage, but had rejected that path to study science and diplomacy, which brought shame to her family name. She had fought for decades to prove herself and earn her current position, but she was always alone, because Zentaran culture valued strength over intelligence. Her people saw her administrative work as weakness, and humans feared her because of her size and species. Marcus realized they had more in common than he ever expected. They talked through the night about loneliness and ambition and the weight of always trying to prove yourself to people who would never understand. At some point, Vera moved closer, and Marcus became very aware of how her presence filled the room. She radiated heat like a furnace, and her scent was strange but not unpleasant, like cinnamon mixed with ozone. When dawn began lighting the windows, Vera stood to leave, and Marcus felt an unexpected disappointment. She paused at the door and turned back with an expression he could not quite read. Then she spoke words that changed everything. She said she had not felt this connected to anyone in years, and she asked if he would consider having dinner with her properly, not as a thank you, but as something more. Marcus knew this was dangerous because humans and Zentarans were not supposed to form personal relationships beyond professional courtesy. Their species had only been at peace for 2 generations, and many on both sides still harbored deep suspicions. But when he looked into Vera's golden eyes, he saw the same loneliness and hope that he felt himself. He said yes without hesitation. Vera's expression transformed into something radiant, and she reached out with one massive hand to gently touch his shoulder. The gesture was tender despite her size and strength. She promised to return the next evening and left before anyone could see her. Marcus stood there for a long moment, trying to process what had just happened. Amy emerged from the bedroom with knowing eyes and a smirk that reminded him exactly of Jake. She said she had heard everything, and she thought Vera seemed wonderful despite being completely terrifying. Marcus laughed because that was exactly right. He spent the rest of the day unable to focus on anything, except the memory of Vera's voice and the way she looked at him like he mattered. That evening she returned wearing simpler clothes and carrying containers of Zentaran food she had prepared herself. They ate together and talked for hours, and when she finally left, Marcus walked her to the docking bay, under the artificial lights of the station. Vera stopped and looked down at him with an expression of wonder. She said humans were supposed to be fragile and weak, but she had never met anyone stronger than him. Marcus reached up and took one of her enormous hands in both of his. He said she was the bravest person he had ever met, because she chose kindness over tradition. Vera leaned down, slowly giving him time to pull away, but Marcus did not move. When her lips touched his forehead, it felt like a promise. She whispered that she would not let him stay alone anymore if he would do the same for her. Marcus smiled and agreed, because he had finally found someone who understood. The water heater hummed perfectly in Amy's quarters, and outside the stars burned bright over Zentara Prime.